Okay, in this video I'm going to go into the details on how I built this jig. The first thing I want to go over is this rod. Originally it was a 1/2 inch when I purchased it from Home Depot. Turns out that the diameter for these jigs is 3 1/64 less than a 1/2 inch. So I had two choices. I could ream this out, in which case it wouldn't work on any of the Tormek bars, or I could modify this bar down 3 1/64 of an inch so that this fits smoothly. I opted to ground this bar down. The way I did that was I mounted a drill on this side on a 3-foot aluminum bar, and I went ahead and I put it inside my vise. I put a 2x4 here and a 2x4 here for support. I then turned on the drill and set it so that it would constantly turn. Then I got myself a file, and like this, I just filed right along 4 to 6 inches, just enough to where I took a layer off. Then I took my jig and I tried to slide it on. If I could slide it on, that's great. I found out how far I could slide it on, and then I would make a mark with a magic marker, and I'd do another 4 to 6 inches. And I would keep doing that a little bit at a time until I had this entire bar down 3 1/64 of an inch. And all told, it took me about 45 minutes to do it doing that method. But it really came out nice. The other thing I needed to do with this bar was I needed to make sure that when I was moving that jig back and forth, it didn't pull that bar out of those risers. The solution for that was really simple. I took and drilled a hole that I believe was 7/32 into the end of this rod. That was just enough so that the threaded rod I have, the 1/4 20, would self-thread itself in. I did it about a 1/2 inch. I then I then screwed it in to the 1/2 inch. It's solid as heck. It's not going anywhere. And then I cut it off at the length I needed to be able to put the wing nut and the washer on. Did the same thing to this side. Now, putting that rod in, I'm going to put it in. This never has to go anywhere. So I permanently mounted the washer and a cap nut on this end. This end, once I had it in, all I had to do was a washer and a wing nut. All right, very easy to do, very easy to get in. It made it so that this didn't go anywhere when I was sharpening with the Tormek. Just a nice, elegant solution. Now on the risers, I pull one off. All they are is mounted to a T-track on the base. Let me go ahead and pull the riser out. On the base, I put where I used carriage bolts, where I ground off the two sides so that they would glide easily into the T-track. That went up through the base into these clamps that I made. Very simple clamps. This is the part that clamps, hollow area. This is the part that pivots. I went ahead and I put my hole toward the back so that the pressure would be down on the front, which made it very, very solid. I used 2 of them because had I used one, I was afraid that when I clamped this down, the riser might lean a little bit one way or the other, and I need to have that riser straight up and down, especially when I'm using the platform. Now, one of the problems I ran into with these when I first made them is I didn't have this dowel and I didn't have this slot. So what would happen when I moved the riser back and forth is this guy would twist and bind. That was solved with the dowel and the slot. That prevents it, once that screw is in there, from moving at all, and so this goes back and forth with ease. You can see the ruler. That's how I can go ahead, based on where the edge of the riser is, tell what measurement it was, either this way or this way, so I can repeat my measurements. The other issue with these was that when they're in the T-track, the problem with these carriage bolts is that square part there sticks up a little bit too far, so that it sits proud of the T-bar, so when this is tightened, this moves back and forth. What I did to cure that was I reamed out a small area at the bottom, so that now when this comes up through, there's plenty of room for it to pull it tight and secure it firmly. The other thing I did was, when I built the platform, I went ahead and did a dovetail bit to give me a slight angle here, so that when this guy slides in, it's not going to go up and it's not going to go down. It's going to be very, very solid and slide very easy. That also prevented it from getting tangled with my clamps. The way I did that was, on my table saw, I went ahead with the dado blade and hogged out the center. And then all I had to do on my router table was to mount it and then go ahead and run it through twice to get it to give me the angle I needed. Very, very easy. It just worked out great. So this is the platform, and that's what gave me the ability to go left and right, and then to move the riser forward and back. The riser, fairly simple construction. This piece right here that goes up and down, you can see how easy that works. Again, I use a inexpensive carriage bolt, and then a knob to tighten it down. So that gives me my up and down movement. Now, I didn't want to have that bar on wood. I figured sooner or later the wood would wear down. So what I did, I got these brass bearings from the Hillman drawer at Lowe's. And what they look like, let's make it out easier. Is this. Okay. And all I had to do was do a reset for the lip and a reset for the depth of the brass, and then it just fits right in there like that. And I've got a perfect 1/2 inch hole for that aluminum bar to go through to hold it steady for that Tormek jig. Now the problem you're running into is that's a 1/2 inch hole, but my platforms all have 1/4 inch carriage bolts that hold them in. All right, so I had to figure out a way of making that 1/2 inch hole into a 1/4 inch hole. The way I did that was to make these. These are little 1/2 inch sleeves with a 1/4 inch hole drilled through the center. They're very easy to make. This was made out of oak. Most of this setup is oak. And what I did was I clamped a piece of oak onto my drill press. I then drilled the 1/4 inch hole. And then I replaced the 1/4 inch drill with a 1/2 inch plug cutter. And then I did my plug cutting. Since I didn't change the position of the wood, it cut it perfectly to give me a sleeve that's a 1/2 inch round and a 1/4 inch hole in it. So then all I need to do is just, when I want to, is to slide those guys in here, and then I've got a perfect thing to be able to mount my my platforms and to secure them to the risers. Okay, let me see. Now the next thing I need to tell you about is this jig. Again, if you go to that Tormek jig that is shaped like this, what you see on the back of it is this right here for determining the amount of distance the tool comes outside of the jig in order to make the appropriate profile or angle for the cut. All right, very easy to make. I determined that this and this was equal, So all I had to do was cut me a step that, that equaled that, measure the distance from here to here on the original jig, cut this as the length of my bottom piece of oak, glue this piece of oak on, glue a lip on. Now I can go ahead and I can put it here. I can do my jig this way, the traditional way, or as I have the bar mounted, as you saw in the previous video, all I have to do is put the gouge in, and then line this up, stick the gouge to that first mark, which is the V mark, and then I'm good to go. I know that I'm going to get the same angle every time. So this was a very simple jig to make. These guys were just a little bit more complicated. The trick to these guys was finding these screw caps. They turned out to be perfect. I could get them in white or black. I chose black because the contrast between the black and the CBN is perfect. I can tell exactly when both of these two are touching that wheel when this is mounted on the bar. The Tormek jig has two settings, an A and a B. That's what these correspond to. All right. And before I tell you, well, no, I'll go into the details. These caps look just like the metal rollers that are on the Tormek jig. The only difference is I took a 1/4 inch 820 by a 1/4 inch screw and with a nut, and I put that in, and I tighten that nut down, and then I close the two screw caps. And that gave me a perfect setup just like the one on the Tormek. Now the way that I got these to be perfectly aligned was, before I made those, I made this. This is a jig that gives me where the 1/2 inch holes go, where the 1/4 inch holes go, so that I can go ahead and put this on a square piece of this 1/4 inch cardboard, and then I go through with a penny with a nail in each one of these holes, and I have where I need to drill. Then I drill a 1/2 inch hole here and here, an 1/8 inch hole here and here. The H-inch screws and the screw caps go in these two positions, and then after I do these holes, I just cut out the bottom so that I have the round slots that you saw in the main ones. The advantage is if I break one of these guys, I can make another one just like it, no trouble at all. The other advantage is once I make one, if I make all of them with this template, they'll all come out perfectly the same. So this solution for me is perfect. It allows me to use my platforms that came with the original grinder. It allows me to use my Tormek jigs, and then as I use it more and more, and I figure out new additions to add to it, I think that's going to cover me on just about everything. Well, I hope you got something out of these videos. I hope that I explained everything in enough detail. If I didn't, please leave any questions in the comments below. Also, if you know of a different way of doing this, or if somebody has done something better, please let me know. I would love to take a look at it and see if I can implement it in this jig. If there is something that I need to do on this that would make it better, again, leave it in the comments. I hope that you got something out of it. I know it was fun doing the video.